when people do their like top 10 lists and their top 20 lists, you really think about somebody that has longevity, that has like a unique style that's theirs, that's unapologetically theirs, and somebody who just bangers and bangers and bangers, just like a good team, or whether it's his good sense, but like bangers, man. I think Busta Rhymes doesn't get that. He deserves to be mentioned in the list of some of the best rappers ever, I think.
No, but he is. I mean, who you going? He's definitely
he's never going to be given that, like Jay-Z, Nas, Biggie, Tupac, Eminem. Like those are like the ones that are in everybody's top 5, right? Busta Rhymes is never going to crack those top 5. But there are guys that could crack those top 5s. Like you make a case for Rakim or other people that could maybe get into a few people's lists. But
KRS-One.
Yeah, sure, but Busta doesn't get that respect, is my point. And I think, like, if you really look at his body of work, it's crazy. He's still going. He's 50 years old. He's still going, and he's still relevant. And it's I
would say this: he's one of the greatest rappers of all time,
for sure.
One of the greatest, top of the like.
For sure.
If they make a list for that, because top 10, there's no top 10. It's too many rappers that are dope for there to be a top 10 anymore.
But there are. Unfortunately, that's just how it works. So I'm saying, like, I wouldn't be upset to see Busta Rhymes in somebody's top 10, and I wouldn't be upset if he was in my top 10 or anybody's top 10. I wouldn't argue it. Let's just say that. There are certain people that put rappers in their top 10 that I'm like, maybe he's more like a number 11. But I wouldn't argue if someone's personal taste was like, oh, Busta's in my top 10, I'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
So, Stu, let me ask you a question about the top 10. I feel like there's too many dope rappers for there to be a top 10 anymore. When they made the first top 10 conversations, there wasn't that many rappers. Think about it.
I mean, there's still top 10 in anything. There's a lot of people that played sports. There's still who's the best NBA player.
No, but you, see, I don't have a top 10. Do you feel like you have a top 10? Because I don't have one anymore.
I once sat down with a few friends and made like a top 100 that turned into a top 200. And I would love to find that list. But we actually were arguing and it got heated. It was like, it took us like over 3 days of just hanging out and we were all into this and fighting for people's spots and slots. And this one's over that one. I'll tell you, one thing that was interesting to me was that maybe it was about 4 or 5 of us. WireFang may have even been a part of it. I don't remember. But I didn't necessarily vote this way, but like at the end of the consensus, because there's like 5 of us, Lauryn Hill ended up in the top 10. And I want to know how you feel about that. They made a very compelling case that got enough votes to get her the votes to get in the top 10. And, what do you think about that choice? Because a lot of people are in their top 10. But maybe people forgot about Lauryn. I don't know. But what do you think?
Lauryn, one of the best. She's one of the greatest rappers to me of all time. She has one of my favorite songs of all time, hip hop wise. Sure. Lost Ones was one of my favorites,
of course,
of all time. So, yeah. Lauryn, but see, it goes to show there's no top 10. It's too many MCs that are equally as good.
But for her to be like in a the list it was a co-ed list. So if it's a boys' game, because there's a lot more male rappers than there are female rappers.
She's better than a lot of male rappers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Lauryn Hill, she is now Lauryn Hill and Busta Rhymes. Like, who gets ranked higher there?
Well, Busta got more rap albums. He has more albums, so I'm gonna give Busta has way more albums than Lauryn. Lauryn gave us like a short run.
And I'm gonna agree with you on that. Okay, I think Lauryn's impact is huge. Okay, she is massive, and the Fugees is like the greatest. Let's Lauryn Hill's the best. No one's saying that she is not the best, but maybe she also Busta Rhymes is just a rapper. She's a singer. She's doing this. She's doing a lot of other things. So if you just get down to who just dedicated their entire life to rapping, Busta Rhymes gets it for that, right?
All day. That's easy. Since the leaders of the new school till now.
Yeah.
That's all day. He has a firm foothold in our histories as far as if you're hip hop, if you love hip hop, there's no Busta's in there.
Especially if your gateway to Busta. Okay, so a lot of people for Busta Rhymes, their introduction with him was either Woo-Ha, I Got Y'all in Check was a big single for him. And I remember that being on MTV and ODB on the remix. And it was like, oh, who is this guy? Oh my God, for people who didn't know him. Then like he really got commercial on Put Your Eyes Where Your Hands Can See. That was like a pop hit, right? He crossed into another universe. But for those of us whose gateway to Busta was through Tribe Called Quest and Leaders of the New School and like knew about him already, we already knew who, like, of course. Like
PTA was the first record I heard him on, just another case of that old PTA.
And it's just like, of course, this guy's gonna be, you know, big. He had such a big personality, and
rap has a top 50 to me. That top 10 is a top 50 for me. I don't have more than 50 equal guys, but I have Slick Rick's, Rakim's, down to Eminem's, and even 50 Cent.
Wait. Okay, slow down on those, and let's just see if any of those few names that you just rattled off would be in my top 10.
Okay, Slick Rick.
Well, he should be.
See, there's no room, right? He has one of the best albums in history.
Of course. But you gave Lauryn Hill slack for having a smaller run. But I'll say Slick Rick's run is still amazing. Like
he was going platinum when they weren't.
Yeah. Slick Rick is the ruler. He's Slick Rick the ruler.
Some of the best records. Oh wait, Rakim.
Rakim would be in my top 10 for sure. And arguably he could be now I say this arguably, he could be the greatest of all time, Rakim. Because, in my opinion, there are the godfathers of hip hop who were the first rappers that had those types of records, and they were party records, blah blah blah, not blah blah blah. Amazing.
No, that's not what you mean.
But then Rakim comes along and like flips it all. His delivery still holds up. His style ahead of its time. The production still holds up on those records. He's still the coolest in the game. After everybody copied that after him.
Yep, that's
you know
true.
What I mean. It's like his swag or whatever you want to call it rubbed off and changed. He's the Nirvana of rap. He came in and changed the game and made it. And then Dr. Dre was able to put out, other people were able to do stuff that went more commercial because of what Rakim did. So he could be the greatest of all time if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with him with that. He's definitely the biggest influence I've seen. Besides, Jay-Z was a hard influence on people too.
Of course, but ask Jay-Z if Rakim influenced him.
No, I'm telling you, I'm agreeing with you with Rakim. So you have Rakim, you have Jay. I would say Biggie, even though Biggie passed away.
I don't care. Biggie's the man. Biggie is the man.
Biggie goes right in there.
Biggie might be my number one today. Like it like rotates. It's like depends what mood it is or what day it is. But Biggie could be number one on any day. Like I wake up, a Biggie song is playing, I'm not going to turn the station.
No. I would say Big Daddy Kane.
Yeah, obviously. And he's another one that's like Rakim. That is an influential guy. That Rakim gets a lot more love. But Big Daddy Kane, there's people that literally copied his entire style. Like he was another one of those guys that doesn't get his just due today. But Big Daddy Kane is the man.
Well, I'll throw a name at you that you probably don't have on your list. I would say 50 Cent is not on your list.
You know what? You would be shocked to know that I would consider him. You know what I mean? I would say that.
In your top 10?
I would say that. I would actually say that if we found my actual top 10, like he would be in there.
Okay, yeah,
because I want to say that in my real impressionable years as a hip hop consumer, How to Rob, when I first heard it, I was like, who's that? That's, you know what I mean? I immediately knew that this guy was like something
ridiculous,
way different. And I think like How to Rob is still like probably, I love Eminem's first album. I love 50 Cent's first album, but even I love just How to Rob is so good. It's like he has such a confidence. He sounds like he means everything he says.
One of the best I've ever heard to me.
And he name drops everybody, and everybody's sort of in on the joke. And it's great. 50 Cent's the man.
Sean Price. Sure.
Wow. Now there you go. So now Sean P. You know why I love him? I'm obviously a big Helter Skelter. Boot Camp was my favorite, but Sean P. you have to appreciate because he's a late bloomer. Like he's a guy that people were sleeping on for a long time.
Yes, indeed.
His partner was Rock, who has this. Rock was like in his monster mode on those records, and Sean was just by himself on those records. You'd probably be like, holy, but he was on it with Rock, so it was like, okay, this guy's good. But once he sort of went on his own, it changed everything. He became the greatest. Like his everything just changed for him.
Unbelievable.
If he's the guy that, like, if his career had ended after Helter Skelter, he would be just known as one of the guys from Helter Skelter, which, by the way, that's great too.
Mm-hmm.
His legacy continued after Helter Skelter in a way that nobody saw coming unless you knew him personally and were in the studio and were around this guy. If you're just a casual fan, you didn't know that. And now, listen, Sean P is the man. And I keep saying that about everybody, but like, you're naming people.
Yes, we're talking about the top of the tops.
Yeah, I mean, you're naming great rappers.
If I'm naming somebody, you know who I always give an honorable mention to, but you can't put him. I mean, I wouldn't say he was the top, but he gets an honorable mention because of his impact. Cannabis.
Yeah.
He came out like, I remember everyone feeling like, well, if you're a rapper, this guy was running through you, like on the shows. If he's rapping next to you on Hot 97, this was a phenomenal thing. He was like Eminem before Eminem type of thing. And I feel like Cannabis kind of gets erased from his. He's the one who, approached the GOAT. You know what I mean? He went to LL.
And that was, by the way, that was like the best, like that era of hip hop where people were releasing those types of tracks, and he came on there with Mike Tyson, and like the beat is still fire, and he's still like talking crazy. And LL came back pretty good too. I remember, and then Wyclef got involved and did one, and it was like a whole beef. And but yeah, I mean, listen, Cannabis can obviously rap, but at the end of the day, there's other.
He didn't have the albums.
There's other things that factor in. There's lots of guys that can rap really great, and maybe he burnt bridges with people. I don't know because I don't know.
But his impact needs to be noted that there was a hurricane Cannabis.
No one's gonna shit on Cannabis as a rapper.
No,
and but I think in the last 10 years, the opposite of Sean Price. Sean Price came in quiet guy in the corner and ended up being the loudest guy in the room, and everybody loves him. Now, Cannabis started out as the loudest guy in the room, and then the stuff that's happened since then has been not great, not a good look. So a few things. I remember seeing stuff online. He showed up to a battle that he shouldn't have even been there, and he was reading off a thing, and like, why would he even put himself in that position? And whatever, I'm not involved in his life and his business decisions, but I am a fan of Cannabis. He's not in my top 10, but he's not laughed at either. Like if someone says Cannabis, I'm like, yes, he's great.
Well, let's talk about the West Coast. Here's one of the top 10. Here's the West Coast guys that'll be in my top 50 because I don't have a top 10. Snoop Dogg.
Of course. And Snoop Dogg gets a bad rap from, because the East Coast style sort of is a lot more lyrical.
Yes, but
so when you look at the West Coast guys, Ice Cube comes to mind as someone who was lyrical, but but you think of Snoop Dogg and he was more of I don't know how to describe his style, but it's like he has his own style and he's a Nirvana of his own. He changed the game, still an A-list get. And he's the Undertaker. He's the main eventer for over 25 years. Snoop Dogg is probably not in a lot of people's top 10.
He's in mine.
He should be. He is, listen, Dr. Dre's Chronic album is a masterpiece. Mm-hmm. Would it be a masterpiece still if Snoop Dogg wasn't on it? Maybe it would, but wow, think of the impact he had on that record.
Come on. Snoop is definitely top 10. Big Pun. Oh, no, that's East Coast. I'm sorry. But I got to throw Big Pun before I forget him. But Snoop, West Coast, Ice Cube, you got to give it to. You got to be in the top.
You can talk about Big Pun for a second.
Yeah, Pun is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Pun, even when when there's Fat Joe, Joe Crack and Big Punisher on the Funk Master Flex mixtapes, like people back then knew. My boy Young Lord worked with him, and I got a chance to spend some time with Big Pun once.
Oh, really?
It was crazy, man. It was crazy. You want a Big Pun story?
I do, brother. What happened with you and Pun?
WireFang, for some reason, is getting FaceTime from WireFang. Maybe Not sure why.
We have a Minicon waiting.
Okay, let's introduce Minicon. We'll get back to this.
We'll tell our big pun story. Stay tuned next time. And if Neff
next episode, I'll remember.
But I like talking about rappers like this. It's fun.
Yes.
And I don't think that I've been like really out of school with any of our sort of analytics there.
No, I think we got 10 people out, but there's more. I'm gonna write down a list next time.
A lot of people that probably wouldn't crack top 10s, but
yeah,
great arguments.
Yes.
Never thirsty. Never thirsty.